I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, May 13th Washougal City Council meeting and ask that you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger, Councilmember Plinsky, Councilmember Greenlee,
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay,
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Councilmembers Freeman and Polinsky let us know that they would be absent this evening, and Councilmember Boger should be with us shortly.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we excuse council members Freeman and Plinsky.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. We did have, the council had a workshop meeting just prior to this meeting in which we had three items that we undertook. One was a update and presentation from the Clark County Arts Council. We also heard some information from our finance director on some surplus equipment from our utility departments that we'll be surplusing and putting out to auction, and also an update from our public works director as well. First couple of items that I have this evening are a couple of proclamations, the first one of which is for Mental Health Month for May of 2013. Whereas the U.S. Surgeon General confirms that mental illness affects 54 million Americans every year, regardless of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status. And whereas the U.S. Surgeon General has found that a range of effective treatments exists for most mental disorders, and whereas the City of Washougal, Washington has made a commitment to a recovery-oriented, community-based system of mental health care that helps all residents with mental illness reach their potential, their individual potential, and maximum productive community living. And whereas the City of Washougal, Washington recognizes that individuals living with mental illness can recover, live full and productive lives, and contribute to enhancing the fabric of our society. And whereas the National Mental Health Association, the National Council for Community Behavioral Health Care, and their national partners observe Mental Health Month in May of each year in order to raise awareness and understanding of the mental health and recovery. Now, therefore, I, Sean Gard, Mayor of the City of Washougal, do hereby proclaim May as Mental Health Month in Clark County, Washington, and call upon all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions to recommit our community to increasing the awareness and understanding of mental health recovery, and to support the ability of all citizens to participate in and contribute to our community. Do we have anyone here this evening that would like to receive the proclamation? Good evening. Come on up. Connie?
Yes.
You're welcome. Would you like to say any words at all for the group?
Good evening. My name is Connie Mumching. I am the Chief Executive Officer for Southwest Washington Behavioral Health. And on behalf of our organization, I just wanted to say thank you so much for making May Mental Health Awareness Month as part of this evening event. And also wanted to let you know that Southwest Washington Behavioral Health is a regional behavioral health organization that serves Clark County, Skamania County, and also Cowlitz County. We are a newly merged organization that provide mental health services to close to 13,000 residents across the region. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our second proclamation this evening is for Buddy Poppies. Whereas the annual sale of Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States has officially recognized and endorsed by government leaders since 1922, and whereas the Veterans of Foreign Wars Buddy Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans, and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefit of disabled and needy veterans, and the widows and widowers and orphans of deceased veterans. And whereas the basic purpose of the annual sale of Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars is eloquently reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living, now, therefore, I, Sean Gard, Mayor of the City of Washougal, do hereby urge the citizens of this community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing generously to support through the purchase of Buddy Poppies on the day set aside for the distribution of these symbols of appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead. Accordingly, I urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy Poppy as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms for which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. Is there someone here from the Veterans of Foreign Wars? Okay. Okay. That brings us to the point in the agenda for any members of the public that would like to address council. Anyone that would like to speak to council? Yes, please come up to the microphone. And if you could give us your name and address, please.
My name's Jane Lacey. I live at 953 G Street, 98671. I have a little literature here for you, and I'm just going to pass it to Rose.
Okay.
So I am here on behalf of a concern that myself and my neighbors would like to address to you. I am a municipal arborist for the city of Portland, Oregon. I've been a resident of Washougal since 2007, and I noticed that in our progressive approach for zoning and planning, we are placing trees in our landscape, and it led me to a question. The question is, do we have an urban forestry management plan? And if so, how are we going to implement that? Because I noticed that our urban forest here in Washougal is not maintained. And if it's not maintained, that brings up safety hazards for staff and the community, i.e. Snow and ice load, sight distance mitigation for signage, most notably intersections like the issue you had at 32nd Street at the Safeway some years ago that you had me view trees that had been pruned improperly by the city, and then you went back and removed the trees. So I'm hoping that I can foster some thoughts towards progressive arboriculture with the city of Washougal for our future urban forest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane. I know you had emailed me a couple, 3 weeks ago. Did Suzanne get back to you?
No, I didn't receive any calls, and I will volunteer, take time off work to replant the trees for you.
Not aware. I'll make sure that she touches base with you. Thank you. Anyone else from the public that would like to address council? Representative Rivers, please. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Liz, I'm sorry.
I've been called a lot of things, but never Ann Rivers.
We just elevated you to a senator. Congratulations.
Liz Pike, resident of Camas, 26300 Northeast 3rd Street. And I just wanted to check in with the city leaders. There's 6 cities in the 18th legislative district. So I've got this little project to make the rounds at least twice between now and the fall to check in with all of our city leaders and find out if there's things that I could do to help you. And I just wanted to assure you too that if the Public Works Trust Fund is touched in any manner, that I will vote no on the House budget. Right now, you probably read in the papers, we're at loggerheads. The state Senate passed a budget that was bipartisan, 32 senators, I think, out of 49. And it included no new taxes, $33 billion or so, 2-year biennium budget. And the House Democrats passed a budget that I voted no on because it did mess with the Public Works Trust Fund. And it also raised taxes by about $900 million on mostly small business. So that's why we're in special session. It actually started today, but I'm not a senior budget writer, so they keep us newbie freshmen at home where we're not costing the taxpayer money, which is a good thing. So I'm just checking in. I'm really glad that Mayor Gard and I had a brief conversation before this meeting to talk about some things that need to be addressed in the legislature as soon as possible. So I'll get to work on that. And just really glad to be here. And just want to remind you that you know how to get a hold of me. So if there's any other really important issues, I'm here to help the city any way I can. And thank you for all the good work that you are doing for your citizens in Washougal. Thank you.
Liz, thank you. And yes, if there's any way for you to reverse what's been done to the Public Works Trust Fund, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'll do what I can as a minority member of the House.
It's okay, you're still a member and we're not. And we might tack on the liquor monies and a few, well, anyway. Yes.
My name is Steve Lambert. I live at 612 West T Street, part of the Riverview Terrace Homeowners Association, which we'll talk about that subject a little bit later. But what I wanted to approach the board on was to actually ask if they would take a look at potentially a park up by the Lookout Ridge apartment complex, which was put in, I don't know, 2005, 2006 maybe. It was zoned first condominiums, now it's apartments. There's been a parking issue, I know it's been brought up in the past, but it's really for kids to play, a place to play. And I've talked to the president of the Heights Homeowners Association. There's 1 acre there that's basically vacant, and they're willing to donate that to Washougal if they would want to put a park in there. So, you know, it's an excellent opportunity to at least look at it and propose, you know, if they could put a park for the kids to play someplace.
You bet.
Because right now there's one park up above, but this is right on the same road, and other neighborhoods could use it as well. So it wouldn't just be for the apartments, but it does give them an out, so to speak.
Mitch, do you recall if that acre was there a property that was supposed to be set aside for off-street parking? Or another part of the development itself that hadn't happened?
No, that portion of the property it's actually, there's a portion of it that is under the BPA power lines on the east side of
Right,
the.
east side.
And there wasn't they had talked a while ago about putting off-street parking. They had talked at one point about putting a swimming pool for everybody within the development, but I haven't had any other conversations about a park.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is actually would be west of the complex. There's a big open lot right there that, as I said, it's tied to the Lookout Ridge Phase 2 and 4 HOA. So if you look down that road, there's a big open spot, which is basically, they have to put a no trespassing sign on it right now so that there's no liability to it. So at least have the parks, you know, look at it, see if consider it something they could do. And then the other thing is a parking issue. I know it's continued, but one thing to consider around like some of the schools, they have white lines that actually demark when a parking spot is supposed to be. I don't know if that would help it out or not, but it does help around the schools that, you know, you have a certain area with a certain number of parking spots, so.
Potentially, you bet. Steve, before you leave tonight, could you make sure that Mitch has your contact information?
Yeah, I think he does, but yeah, I'd be happy to talk to him too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? John?
John Wagner, 36710 Southeast 20th Street, Washougal. Mr. Mayor, I would like to congratulate you on your spectacular victory over the mayor of Camas in your
Thought maybe I forgot something. I was going,
in your 1-year-long competition. I been down that road myself a few times over my life, and know how hard that could have been. But more importantly, I personally appreciate the fact that you and the mayor did that to draw national attention to our area. As you know, you're on the board of Columbia or Camas Washougal Economic Development. We're trying to attract business here and the quality of life here. And by doing what you did, you inspired other people to improve their own personal health. And I think that that is a very wonderful and a good thing that you did. And I understand that I mentioned it to the mayor of Camas last week at their meeting that you had won by 1%, and he quickly corrected me that it was 0.6%.
I don't know about, that's the first time I've heard that.
Way to go. And you came through for Washougal.
That's it.
And like I say, you were an inspiration to many people, and to use your position to inspire people to improve their lives and improve our community is, I think, a wonderful thing that you've done. So I want to thank you personally and appreciate what you did.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. I wish it had been a bigger win. Wait, does that sound right? No. You all know what I meant. Is it John or Richard?
Richard Hamby, 37015 Southeast Gibson Road, Washougal. My construction business is going to have a job in your city in about a month. And of course, I've been before you before, but the way it is right now, if I choose to go and get a city business license and take on that job along with all of the other fees, I have to pay a late fee. This is a unintended consequence of previous council action, but to do anything about it would take council action. I'm not sure, maybe I'm not clear on who I need to talk to, because really this is like the 4th time I've been in front of you to try and see if there's a way that this could be resolved. But the reality of this is where you're getting a $25 license fee, one that no other local jurisdiction sees the need for. On top of that, it's $9 for the state to collect it for you with the program you've set up. Then it's $12.50 as a late fee for that. And then if I want to recoup that from my customer, which I do, I have to put tax on that. It gets over $50 for you to get your 25. Now, with this particular job, it's a small interior remodel. There's 3 of my subcontractors that are going to fall into that same situation. Maybe not all of them with the late fee, but otherwise,
Right.
there's about $200 that your constituents are going to have to pay for a license that is a layer of regulation and fees that nobody else nearby seems to have a need for. So I'm not sure who I'd talk to initiate something, but I'd really like, even if it's a negative response, I'd like to get some response.
No, we can, I think it's 2 different questions. One is, do we even need to have folks who do not physically have a business within the city but are doing business in the city? Do we need
Just
to
one phrase
do
in your
business
code that
licenses
you'd
on
have to
that?
remove. And I'm sure that Camas doesn't have that phrase in theirs because they don't charge them.
They don't charge them at all. I know some cities in the state do, because I had to do that myself in places. That's one of the questions. The other question, just on the late fees and that type of stuff, Representative Pike, do you know where that one ended up in the legislature with the State Department of Revenue mandating that they would collect all business license fees for everybody?
Is that the portal bill?
It was attached to the portal bill. The portal bill only went with the B&O taxes for all those cities that collect those. This is one that makes it mandatory that the State Department of Revenue or licensing gets to collect everybody's business fees, which is where the late fee and the $9 fee comes in and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think there was they called it a single portal for Washington business, and it never made it to the House floor for a vote. So
Okay.
it's not dead for a year until final sign die, but it's not moving forward.
There's been similar proposals before, and that's why I think that you felt like you maybe at the time needed to go down this route, but none of them are going forward. And with some, I won't take the time to go through it, but there's some really good reasons why it's unworkable. Vancouver's got their own system that couldn't be handled by the state. They'd have to do something different.
Oh, we all would.
Everybody would.
Yep.
And anyway, it's something that you're the only local jurisdiction that is imposing this layer of regulation and fees, and one phrase out of your city code would correct it. So if there's someone specific that I could approach on this, I'd be happy to.
David, would we toss that one to Jennifer or to Mitch or to both?
To Jennifer.
Okay.
Okay. I'll talk
Finance
to her.
Director.
Would you send me that language, the phrase that needs to come out?
Sure. Be happy to.
There's a card out there
I've got
on the wall.
you're-
Okay,
You're on the website. I can.
all right. It's
You
good
can
to
be
know I'm
found.
on your list.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, would you please send it to all of us?
I will.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address council? Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. My name is Rex McNew. I live at 857 H Street, Washougal, Washington. I have to say I'm not a very good public speaker, but it didn't help that Joyce and Mitch said hi when I came in. That helped a lot. And I did come to the city council meeting where you had the water issue, and that's part of the reason I'm here, is due to the fact that a lot of people complained, but I didn't see any of them here for the meeting. So the only way to be able to address things, I guess, is to bring it in front of you so that you know about it. I live on a street that when I first moved there, which was 13 years ago, it was not an improved street, and now it is. I live between 6th and 9th on H Street. If anyone knows where that is, it's an improved street that the city put in planters. Everyone knows where it's at. I've lived there for a long time. I was fortunate for many years that Rick from Animal Control lived across the street because due to the police presence at his house, that controlled the racetrack. But unfortunately, I decided the other day a new neighbor moved into Rick's house, and he has a young 9-year-old daughter who walked across the street, and because it's a racetrack, a guy came around the corner as fast as he could, broadsiding, and almost killed that young lady. And if I would have had to come to this city council meeting after that would have happened, I would have been guilty for not bringing it in front of you. Which that street, well, at the time that I first moved in there, it was gravel, so you couldn't go that fast. But now it's basically 4 lanes wide with the little planters that come out to try to slow people down. That does not work. If any of you lived on that street, you would not believe what goes on there. And I think due to the fact that it's a dead-end street on both ends, and the police department obviously does not have the ability to sit there and patrol it all the time. And even if they do, it's a clear line of sight from one end to the other. So when you turn that corner where the old KFC was, or you come around the other end, you can see to the other end. And it is amazing how fast people drive. And so I basically took the steps, went up and down the street, talked to everyone. Everyone agreed that it would be nice to have speed bumps there. Now, due to the fact that the street is directly parallel to, since I'm half blind and don't have my glasses on, I think it's I is the next one over, that has those real sharp speed bumps. That obviously has directed the traffic into there, and we also have the adjoining street that someone else lives on. I know they speed there. But that racetrack is, basically, that's what it is. When I was in high school, if any of you see that street, come around that corner and look, you can see it is a straight shot to the end, and they drive like maniacs. I have made a few reports about it. Obviously, a lot of people haven't, but I also know why people don't make reports. And I've had my own experience with that, with turning in people in animal control. Now my neighbor doesn't like me because they can find that information out, or calling on someone to, you know, because their cars are parked on the street, then they can look it up in the record, see who called, and they're at my house. And I've been harassed by both, and it's not meant directed at anyone that works at the city, but I have been harassed by Oregon police officers, Washougal, and city workers for making those calls. Now, that in turn, the only reason I said that, it doesn't apply to anyone here. I don't want you to think just because you're on the city council. That has, anyone can do that. But that's just an example of how I can understand why other people don't make complaints. But I went up and down the street, and a lot of the complaints were very hostile, like running out in the street and throwing nails or a baseball bat. And I said, no, don't do any of that. That's what I'm here for, to present it to the city council, see how they might want to have me proceed. If you want me to go, I've actually talked to everyone, and they said yes, they do agree that we do need speed bumps. And I've also noticed the way those planters are set up, that there's actually a shorter distance for putting them in there. I also realized that, you know, this is the same problem that occurs all over the city, but by trade, in fact, I found that tonight I may have to spend some more money on a business license, even though the city says I haven't so far, but I do exist. I just don't do business here, but that might not make any difference, right? Anyway. You can laugh.
We just don't know that you exist yet.
It was just in my mind. I'm like, oh, gee, they said I didn't need one. Maybe I do. But anyway, I'm just asking how I would proceed. I know there's a lot of speed areas in this city. In fact, I even got pulled over by Frank the other day for doing 32 in a 25, and he pulled me over and asked me, Rex, what are you doing? Like, obviously not paying any attention. But the problem is bad, and truthfully, someone is going to get hurt on that street, only because of the way it's set up. And if you notice, if you turn into 6th Street, where the old KFC was, or turn onto 8th Street, and you head east on it, if you look down at the end, there's a man down at the very end of that, and because of him having 2 cars smashed at that end, he has concrete barriers in front of his house. And if I lived there, I would too. Everyone's aware of it. In the last few days, it has become insane. Motorcyclers racing up and down that street. And I went down and talked to the police department. She said make a complaint, and I realized the police, they can't send anyone out there. I mean, you don't have the funding. I understand that. We don't have a 25-mile-an-hour sign. But I basically want to know what you want me to do, I went to to all the homeowners and said, it would really help the city council if each one of you would write an individual letter. Please don't be hostile. It's not their fault. Okay? They have not even heard about the issue yet, but
That's, Rex, if you would, before you leave this evening, if you give your contact information to Rose,
I
we'll
wrote
make
a
sure.
short little list about it and the people that I talked to, and make sure that Rose has that.
Awesome.
So you have one. I didn't make a copy because the printer, of course, went out after I did that.
Not to worry.
And please, excuse my tire.
We can't send police cars down there, so don't worry about that.
I realize that, but if you see in the letter, I asked her about it, and she said that they don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
She specifically told me, and I understand that. I don't disagree with that. But even then, I don't know if it's going to change anything because of the line of sight of that street. The street is wonderful. I have driveways connected. It's improved the whole area. So, I mean, it's beautiful in there right now, but
I would suggest, starting this evening, as you see your neighbors, you might want to make sure that they watch their speedometers, because I'm pretty sure we can assure you that there'll be more patrols out there.
that's understandable. And I didn't talk to the apartment complexes because, I don't know if my 3 minutes is up, but the apartment there's apartment complexes that are interspersed within there. And as we all know, they're most low income. Some of them, I think, there's three nice ones, but I think they're probably all low income. And I didn't go to those because that's the majority of the speeders, of course. But I haven't seen any dead cats or dogs on the street yet, but I figured that was probably coming. But it used to be better because at that time, there were more cars parked out there when, Earl had more cars out there, and they didn't come around that corner as fast. But now, it's insane. Literally, I'm almost afraid to back my car out anytime. So because of that, I now back in instead of just back out. I back my truck in so I can actually pull out and see what's going on. So how would you like me to proceed? I can go to, in fact, every homeowner's already agreed. I can have every one of them write a letter as to their experiences of what's going on there. Should I tell them that they need to call in more complaints? I mean, I would have.
Well, certainly as you've got fast traffic going around there, as you know, for whatever reason, when it starts, it continues for a while, an hour, 2 hours. It's bizarre how that happens. So certainly do not.
Especially in the morning, of course, because people are going to work and that.
But don't hesitate if you've got fast traffic going on in there, just to call 911, and they'll dispatch the officers. And then in regard to the speed bumps, we can certainly take a look at that from the Public Works Committee and the Public Works staff side of it to see what we might be able to do on there.
Yeah, I think it would make a
If
big
you need,
difference on the
if
street.
you need speed limit signs down there, we can certainly do those.
That would
We've-
probably help too.
We've got a speed.
But like I said, we didn't have really a problem when Rick was there because obviously the police department would come through and the cars would be sitting there. So that would make them paranoid all day long because they didn't know whether actually a police officer lived there or not. So I have to say Rick is definitely missed.
You might even see some cars down there that don't look normal.
That would probably be the best. I have to say, what would
Again,
you
though,
like me to do from this point?
I think we're fine with what we need now. As long as Rose has got your contact information, we can start moving from there.
Okay, and if
Don't
it
hesitate to keep
continues-
tickling, though.
And if it continues, should I still keep coming back to the meetings and letting you know?
Just call, don't even wait for a meeting.
Okay, call here
Call here to City Hall.
to City Hall and let them know, and just keep calling if I have to. Now, what about getting license plate numbers and stuff? I mean, that's a real fearful thing.
Yeah, it's,
Which I'm not in fear of it, but
On those type of
my neighbors
things-
are because they're not here.
other than once in a while when you can actually get one for an officer to go have a talk with somebody, there's really not much they can do.
Right, of course, except scare them by telling them to slow down and make them aware that people are watching them.
Or once they know what a vehicle looks like, that type of stuff, they have a pretty good
Okay,
habit
well, I'll
of
keep calling, and
finding it,
if it continues within the next 6 weeks, if the issue keeps continuing, and like I said, how much time should I be giving you to take a look at it? Because I talked to the people on I Street, and that was like 15 years ago. I actually talked to the lady and she said the city council took a look at it, and then they put the speed bumps in like within 8 weeks. Because all the homeowners had agreed to it, but their speed bumps are hideous, and none of us want to drive over those plastic ones, or rubber ones.
Yeah.
They're beyond.
I don't even want to hazard a guess on that one, because I've got an entire criteria they've even got to go through for them, so,
So they'll start that.
yeah.
Okay, my contact information is
The
on.
message will be sent tomorrow. I would not be surprised if you see patrol cars over there.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Maybe they'll pull me over and my neighbor. That'd be great.
So I said,
They'll
just
be
keep
aware.
going slow.
Everyone does it. We all do.
Going slow.
Unless we had a computer in our car, we all speed. Thank you for your time, everyone. I appreciate
Rex,
it.
thank you.
Oh, and by the way, congratulations to anyone who lost weight. You exactly.
Thank you.
I used to be 350 pounds. So you can actually do
Congratulations.
whatever you want in this world if you put your mind to it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now my wife heard that back there, too. Thank you, Rex. Anyone else that would like to address council? Okay, not your last opportunity. We will have another one before the meeting's over as well. Next order of business is our consent agenda. This evening, we have 5 items on the agenda. Our workshop minutes of April 22nd, 2013, our council minutes of April 22nd, 2013, our special meeting minutes of April 27th, 2013, our regular accounts payable claims in the amount of $418,715.08, and Agenda Bill 15-3, setting a public hearing for utility fund surplus equipment. Council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I've got a motion and a second. Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to Agenda Bill 1613, a public hearing in regards to Liberty Land and Development request for easement. Mitch.
Thank you, Your Honor. The request before you this evening is for a public hearing for Liberty Land and Development is requesting that the city grant an easement for ingress, egress, and utilities across an open space portion of track previously dedicated to the city of Washougal with the Riverview Terrace Phase 1 development. State statute 5817-225 gives the City Council the authority to grant this easement over open space when it will not impair public access or authorize construction of any physical barriers of any type. There's a lot of history with this easement. It's detailed within the agenda bill itself. I won't get into all of that, but the recent history, the last time this was before you until most recently was March of 2012, at which time the item was tabled to allow Liberty Land Development to work with the HOA in regards with incorporating the subject property within the Riverview Terrace Homeowners Association. We've Exhibit G in your agenda bill identify as an email between Liberty Land's attorney and the Homeowners Association President, Mr. Lambert, saying that they've received the votes necessary to have this property brought into the Riverview Terrace HOA. This is the subject property that we're looking at here. This property is in Camas. The easement will be across the open space at the westerly extension of West S Circle. It'll be 20 feet, approximately 20 feet in width. It'll provide access to a single dwelling unit and provide ingress and egress, as well as utilities will be provided through that. This survey is a detail that the Liberty Land provided, shows the easement area approximately 1,800 square feet and about just over 80 feet in length off the extension of West S Circle. So the request for this evening is the recommended action is to hold a public hearing, to take public testimony, and then to authorize the mayor to sign an easement granting to Liberty Land and Development a non-exclusive easement for ingress, egress, and utilities across the described property under the conditions that Liberty Land and Development pay the fair market value of the easement to the city in the sum of $2,000. The easement be limited for the purpose of providing access and utilities to one single-family lot. The easement comply with conditions outlined in RCW 5817-225, namely that no physical barriers may be erected on the property and that Liberty Land and Development shall execute an indemnification and hold harmless agreement.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask anyone that would like to comment on this issue to please come up to the microphone, give your name and address. Good evening, Leanne.
Good evening. For the record, my name's Leanne Bremer. I'm an attorney for Liberty Land and Development. I was here over a year ago making the same requests, and I'm glad to be back, and hopefully we will get this item approved tonight. Council had asked that we work with the Riverview Terrace Homeowners Association because there was concerns from a number of the homeowners about some issues with granting an easement and having, even though it's just a single house, but making sure that the house would conform to the neighborhood design standards. And there was some concerns about traffic as well. So we worked very hard with the Homeowners Association to reach an agreement, and I have to give Mr. Steve Lambert a lot of credit for getting the vote needed to add this lot to the HOA and be subject to the Riverview Terrace CC&Rs. This lot will be as if it were part of the original plat and will be subject to all the rules that apply to the other lots in that development. We'll pay a buy-in fee to the association. We'll reimburse expenses for having the vote. We'll help with drafting the amendment to the CC&Rs adding this lot. So Mr. Lambert had taken care, and it just took this long to get the vote. And having represented homeowners associations and knowing how hard it is to get votes, I can understand why it took this long. So we're here respectfully requesting that the city grant the easement and under the terms that Mitch had laid out. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on the item at hand?
Just to follow up on that, obviously, it was a year ago that we did talk to you about
Steve
Lambert.
Go ahead. Yep.
Steve
Thank
Lambert,
you.
612 West T Street. Talked about working together and compromise where that if they were to approve this lot, that they would fall within the neighborhood and take advantage of the nice settings we have and so forth. So we did have a special vote where each homeowner had a chance to vote yes or no. We did, as a board, recommend that they vote yes, so that if they do approve, at least we do control what is put in there. So a lot of hustle, but patience on their part as well. We have a pretty good homeowners association up there, and I think we proved it. We had to have over 66% yes votes, and we did get that. I know there were a few no's, but we did get majority to agree with it. So I'm thankful that we were able to pull this off at this time. So, all right. So that's why I wanted to reinforce what she said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that would like to speak to the agenda bill? Last and final call. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to sign an easement granting Liberty Land Development a non-exclusive easement for ingress, egress, and utilities across the described property under the conditions that are listed.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign the easement. Any council discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a question of Mitch.
Brent?
Mitch, I've got 5817-225 open here, and I just want to go through the elements and make sure that they're all present for avoiding a plat alteration. The granting of an easement for ingress and egress of utilities over public property that is held as open space, pursuant to a subdivision or plat, where the open space is already used as a utility right-of-way or corridor. Is that true?
That is true. There's actually an extension off of West S Circle, and I'll try this, that extends, and it won't let me do this. Hang on.
And Leanne can chime in if she wants as well.
There is, oh, there we go. There, it's kind of hard to do, but off of West S Circle here, there's a utility tract that crosses this wetland to provide utilities to the future development here.
Okay.
And this is actually entirely a stormwater facility owned by the city.
Okay. Next element, where other access is not feasible.
It's not feasible. It's topographically impossible to get up there from the south.
Okay, and where the granting of the easement will not impair public access.
That's the stipulation, that it can't provide any barriers or.
Okay. Or authorize the construction of physical barriers of any type. Okay.
Yep.
All the elements are present.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, I've got a motion in a second to authorize the mayor to sign the easement with Liberty Land and Development with the conditions as set forth in the staff report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Finally. Finally. Steve, thank you to the Homeowners Association for working with them.
Sylvia's here too, and she's one of the new neighbors of the S Circle, so she's supported, even though it's going to be part of her world going forward. So
Thank you all very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we are at that point in the agenda again for public comment. If there's anyone else from the public that would like to comment to council. Yes, Marilyn. Uh-oh, good evening.
Anyway, congratulations on your slenderness, sir. Anyone looking at me can tell that I wasn't participating. Anyway, a couple of comments. One is that if this gentleman thinks that 8th Street, which is nice and wide and clean, is a problem, he ought to come on to G Street, where the traffic, my block on G Street is 6 houses long. The traffic comes down 9th, is in the second gear before, when they hit my house, which is only the 4th house, and are raging out. So I do drive into my driveway, and then I do a lot of praying as I come out, and discover that while there was nothing behind me a moment ago, there is now something behind me. So I'm not passionate about bumps on the roadway because I Street is pretty horrible, but I don't know what the answer is, but the answer is in intelligence, patience, and all those things that teenagers don't get to have. I didn't hear what Jane Lacey had to say because she doesn't have a loud mouth the way I do, at least not here. I am concerned about the fact that the city does not have a tree ordinance. In the 10 years that I have been on G Street and sharing the joys of the trees and the wonderfulness of actually, I came to Washougal by accident, and I'm so glad that misfortune brought me here. The gentleman who owns the storage space at the end of the street at E has chopped down a tree that was such a great walnut. I had friends who came from Vancouver to collect the walnuts, and he just chopped it down. Bingo. Then a guy a few houses east of that bought a piece of property. The day he got it, he chopped down this huge maple tree. The maple tree was probably 8 times this going round. Chopped it down for no reason that I could figure, and then put it up for rent. I'm having trouble with the logic of that, but that's not the point. The point is that all these trees were planted by God or somebody else, not Marilyn, long, long ago. And we have a responsibility to look after them. This is a town that is particularly delightful because of its many trees. And we are doing nothing about protecting them. Jane herself, last week, cut down 2 princess trees across the street and down a couple of houses. They were messy. Well, all trees are messy. People are messy. Babies are messy. Dogs are messy. Are we going to shoot and kill everybody who's messy? This is not fair, and it's not right. And I think we have a responsibility to find a way to protect these trees. Cutting down a tree because it's messy is not a very good reason. Cutting down the tree because it's weak and it's going to fall over in somebody's house is a totally different situation. And I believe that somebody should be required, all of you have a responsibility to find a way to see that when we would do these things, we do it for a reason and not just because we're having a bad day or whatever. Okay? And if anybody on staff knows how to slow down teenagers, I'll be willing to buy some coffee or
we
more.
have some folks on staff that know how to do that. They're all not here right at the moment, but. At least momentarily, they do. Anyone else from the public that would like to address council? Sure.
Again, Rex McNew, 857 H Street, Washougal, Washington. This lovely lady who just made the comment about G Street. H Street and G Street do work in combination because of their severe length in this city. And I'm one of those people who's very aware because I'm an antique dealer by trade, so I go to all the sales in this town. I go to all the streets. And I also ride my bike every day all over this town. And she is right. I will not ride my bicycle on G Street due to the length. Our street is a little better as far as doing drag racing. I'd say quite a bit better. But hers is also dangerous because of the narrowness of that street. And that's part of the reason I didn't buy a house that was not too far from where she's talking about, because there was one for sale. I picked the one on my street because it was a little safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address council? Okay. Moving to mayor's report, I've got a couple, 3 items for you. One, hopefully you all got copies of the email that I sent out last week with our staff awards. We did some staff awards last Thursday. 6 awards to 4 staff members. We now need to amend our award program so that one member doesn't necessarily pick up 3 awards in one fell swoop. But Megan Morris from our finance department did just that last week. Sherry Montgomery from code enforcement, Frank Ernst from our public works department, and Teresa Guys over in community development. So congratulations to those 4 staff members. And those were awards that are actually folks are nominated and selected from their peers. Management, really, other than coordinating the times and the paperwork, we're not involved in the rest of it, so it's kind of neat to have those staff members who are recognizing their peers out there. There is a chamber lunch this Thursday at Fairgate Inn, 11:30 for social, noon for the luncheon, and that lunch speaker is Paul Dennis from the our local Economic Development Association. So if anyone is interested in talking with Paul or hearing what he has, that will be happening this Thursday, Chamber of Commerce. 2 items on Memorial Day. Number 1, Memorial Day falls on a Monday, which would be our next council meeting. So we will not be here on Monday, May 27th, but we will be here on Tuesday, May 28th. So anybody on their calendars, we will not be in session on Monday, but will be the following Tuesday. And on Memorial Day, we will have our Memorial Day observances up at the cemetery starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. So the public is certainly welcome to be up there. Mr. Scott, I did see an email in regards to community development block grants. Was that the final notification that they have been approved?
You received an email?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check and see if I got one since 5:30, but I haven't received one, but I was
Might not have been it.
I was aware that the county did pass the plan on consent at a recent meeting. So, yes, we were awarded.
Awesome. That's all that I have. Council members. Brent?
I just had a question related to what Ms.
Terrell?
Terrell, I'm sorry. I'm used to different terms. Brought up on trees. Could you refresh my recollection on what any Washougal regulations, Washougal has on tree regulations? We do not. You do not. Do we know, I know there's one.
We do not.
I'm going to turn mine on, too.
Yeah.
I know there's one other jurisdiction in the county that shall not be named that does have a tree ordinance. I've worked with it. Are we familiar with what other jurisdictions do, Camas or Battleground or?
No, not particularly. No, I'm very well aware of Vancouver's. We actually worked on, in Washougal, we worked on one tree ordinance, an urban forestry ordinance in 06, 07, but it never got any ground.
There's just not, you don't think there's community interest in it, or?
No, excuse me? Oh, it just didn't move forward. It was, at the time, we were working with a lot of other items, and it just didn't.
Well, I think it's something that we ought to look at.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're looking at, I think at the time there was also a push to be the tree city, and there's some financial obligations to a city if you're going to look at being a tree city, that you, as a municipality, would have to pull out of our general fund, and I think that was an issue of concern at the time as well.
You'd need a forester, and, you know, that's expensive.
Yes,
but,
it is.
Anyway, it's just something that I think merits some looking into.
Yeah, I mean, we do have other critical areas. We have habitat, and all those critical areas come into play, and especially if you're cutting trees, those still come into play and can have, you know, require biological review and may not allow you to cut down trees in those instances. But if absent any of those critical areas, there's nothing that would prevent the removal of a tree.
Okay.
This will probably save an email later tonight. I was actually going to toss that one over to Mitch, to your committee for community development, to take a look at that. And if you want to, council members that are on that committee, if you want to take a look at whether that's something we want to move forward to and make a recommendation to council at a future workshop. So I'll save the email, and there you go.
Okay.
Paul.
I just wanted to mention that I was on Planning Commission when we spent a lot of time on tree code. And to just mention some of the complexities that might not occur to you at the beginning is one of the things we were looking at was standards for parking lots, that you had to have a certain number of trees for 6 parking spaces or 12 parking spaces, depending on where the parking was. Is it off street? Is it behind the building, or is it on the street? But the definition of tree was something of 2 inches in gauge or larger. Once you start thinking about that, you run into the situation where it's virtually required of a developer that they cut down an 18-inch in diameter tree and replace it with 6 2-inch in diameter trees. And that clearly does not make sense. On the other hand, trying to work the code around into a way that did make sense, that would protect the big trees and still require plantings for parking areas and general improvement of the city, it's incredibly complicated, and I frankly admit that at some point we threw up our hands and gave up. But I just want to say that it seems like it would be really easy, and the more you look into it, the less easy it looks. I just wanted to mention that last Tuesday we had a RTC, Regional Transportation Commission meeting. The only real action item was to approve a executive search company contract to replace the executive director, who is retiring. Dean Lookingbill is retiring after many, many years, and his loss will be felt. That's about the only. There were some discussion items, but that was really the only action item. Then immediately after that, I had a mosquito control board meeting, and which is, I keep telling people these are fun, and they never believe me. But it depends a little bit on the weather, but it looks like that with the January, February, March, and April that we've had, and very little rain, and the Columbia River already down well below what it was typically, what that means is that there's not stagnant water around for mosquitoes to breed. So we suspect at this point that it will be an easy season for mosquitoes, and we're really not expecting any health scares from either bird flu or equine encephalitis, which are the 2 mosquito-borne diseases that we particularly worry about at this point. So mosquito control board went well. It was a quick meeting, and that's it. I did want to underline what the mayor said about the chamber luncheon, that anyone who has any interest at all in local economic development, that Paul Dennis will be speaking, and it'll be a good thing. And it's up at the Fairmont. It's not at Camas Meadows anymore.
Thank you, Paul. Joyce, anything?
I think most of us are familiar with Meals on Wheels, and last Friday night there was an auction at our senior community center for Meals on Wheels that was well attended, and I think they made around $5,000. It was a great, their first fundraising attempt like that, and it was great. So next year, if you hear about it, you should attend. Then I want to say the Camas Washougal Rotary Club volunteers planted the flowers around the cemetery, the Washougal Cemetery, for Memorial Day. So when you drive by, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Yes. I'd also like to reiterate what Councilmember Lindsay said about the Meals on Wheels fundraiser on Friday. It was a wonderful event. I was on the steering committee for that, and we weren't sure how the turnout was going to go, and I think it turned out better than we thought. We had to actually set up 2 extra tables, so it was wonderful. As Councilmember Lindsay mentioned, we raised almost $5,000, so I think that's, for our little center, that's pretty incredible for a first-time event. So I expect next year to be even bigger and better. So, and I have one more thing I want to remind everybody to come out on Saturday morning for the Stride. That's the Student Stride for Education at Washougal High School. That's the 5K fun run, and funds are raised from registration for the Stride benefit the Washougal Schools Foundation and students in our community. So everybody needs to come out. It's only $10 to register, and you don't have to run. You can walk. And, you know, stick around and cheer on the little ones, because the kindergartners through the 5th graders will be running immediately following the bigger kids and adults. So, and it's, like I said, it's only $10. So, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's my
David?
shirt. See my shirt? Oh, my shirt.
I'd like to propose 2 amendments to our council rules to be considered at our next workshop. The first one is to limit council members to 3 minutes of speaking per recognition by the mayor, unless authorized as an exception by a majority council vote. I honestly see why no reason why we shouldn't adhere to the same rules that the public have to adhere to. This makes each speech by a council member from the rostrum shorter, which allows for more back and forth, which is what we need. And it actually increases debate as opposed to limiting it. If you can't get it said in 3 minutes, you haven't planned it out well enough. As an example, Mr. Greenlee covered in less than 4 minutes tonight 4 different topics. I think we can all cover one topic in 3 minutes. He's extremely well organized. The second one I would like to propose is to create a provision for proxy voting by absent members. And the Municipal Research Support Center here in Washington recommends against proxy voting, but says there's nothing prohibiting it in Washington code. They don't give their rationale. They side from a general feeling that they just don't like it. But I think that being unavoidably absent should not preclude casting the vote that the public gave council members when they elected us. Having less than a full council make decisions results in decisions that would never have been made had all council members been present. It also skews the voting in directions that do not represent the will of the people as indicated by election results. And I'd like to consider these 2 possibilities at our next workshop, if possible.
We'll make sure they're on the agenda.
I alerted the staff to it earlier today, and they were kind enough to help me frame this discussion.
Not a worry.
Thank you. Oh, one other thing. You mentioned the 27 May Memorial Day observance at Washougal Cemetery. I got a call yesterday asking me if I would speak at that one. Again, they must be short of speakers. They keep coming back.
You do a good job.
He does an excellent job.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll try not to disappoint.
No worries. And you don't need to keep it under 3 minutes.
That's right.
Well, Actually, 5 or 6 minutes is about my max at one of these things.
You've done a good job, Adam. That takes care of the items on our agenda. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.